I'm just enjoying a little bit of lunch. 300, what is this, 280 carbs or 280 calories. Turkey ham sub. 0 cal Gatorade. And got the baked Lay's. But guys, let me get a couple of bites. I'm gonna let y'all get in here. We're gonna talk about episode 33. We gotta talk about this labor shortage, guys. Yeah, a lot of people out here buying up hella. I seen this last night, guys. A lot of people are starting to buy a lot of salt. I think this weekend in Pennsylvania, we're gonna get a lot of snow. But for some reason, people get crazy as hell. They start buying up a lot of milk, eggs, bread, and tissue, and they buy up a lot of salt. I can't blame them. They're saying we're gonna get like what, 14 inches of snow between Sunday and Monday. But better safe than sorry, guys. But I think tonight it's going to be like 9 degrees. Guys, that sandwich hit the spot. But guys, real quick, I just got out of a job I'm gonna put up at some point this weekend. If I don't run any calls, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be working tomorrow. But if I don't run any calls tomorrow, I still got vlogs to put up from yesterday. But guys, the call I just came from, the unit basically kicked. And guys, like I said, man, this is entertainment. I don't really care about, like I said, the previous company that came out. I don't care about, any negativity, man. With the customer, guys, like, I use everything for entertainment, and of course, this channel is about education. The call I came from, guys, I'm gonna put this up this weekend. The previous company that came out, I don't know if he was a plumber or what the hell the profession was, but they came out to fix a boiler that was leaking. And guys, the boiler, I think initially the expansion tank was leaking, according to the customer. The expansion tank was leaking, and the guy came out. I think he was a plumber. He came out to replace the expansion tank, but then he noticed he couldn't get the boiler fired up. And like, guys, I'm not going to spoil the surprise, but like I said, that boiler kicked his ass, guys, and I got a good laugh out of it. Like I said, luckily we were able to get this customer up and going, so it wasn't a big deal. But guys, real quick, I'm going to get into episode 33 in a second. I'm going to let a couple more people get in here. We got to talk about this labor shortage. I mentioned this before a couple months ago. I don't know how you guys feel about it. For you guys that's in the trade, or if you want to get into the trade, we're living in a very opinionated society. So guys, everybody got an opinion, even if the opinion, isn't worth shit. You still got to hear about it one way or another. Everybody is saying that, hey, like in the trades, everybody is not too many people are starting to get into the trade. We're heading towards a labor shortage, blah, blah, blah. Guys, it really depends on your perspective, If you haven't been in the trade, then like I said, you're going to have a different perspective versus someone that's in the trade or has been in the trade for like 10 plus years or 20 plus years. Now, when I say you got a unique perspective, I say like this, that my perspective on it, guys, I seen what it was when I got into the trade 10 years ago, 11 years ago, and I seen what it is now. I think, me personally, I think the trades are going to be in good hands. It's just, you're going to have different personalities, guys. Just like how it was back in the day, every personality is not the same. I can't force my personality on, a 19-year-old. I can't force my personality on a 59-year-old. Everybody is their own person. But one thing that's never going to change about the trades is the standard, the level that you have to perform at to help customers out, the level that you have to perform at to do well in business. That standard will never go down. It's either you can make it work or you're going to fail. But like, How you choose to do it is up to you ultimately. You know, how long it takes for you to do it, how quick the person can learn, you know, like, and this is why I was telling my gym bros this. They get on me all the time. Like, I told them my story. I told them it only took me really 2 years, like I said, of just grinding to learn HVAC and then eventually to start a business, guys. But like, one thing you'll never hear me do, and this is why, you know, I always try to encourage people, but I always got to keep it realistic. I can't tell you in 2 years or in 18 months you're going to start a business, like, because for one, you have to perform at a high. And I briefly touched this. I touched over this in the intro video, guys. But like, a lot of my time went into learning on the clock and around the clock, guys. Like, it was really some, like I said, 24/7 type shit. But like, I didn't think about time like that because I love learning about HVAC. And like, that's not something someone told me what it was. That's something I experienced myself. Once I knew how TXVs work, once I knew how the refrigerant cycle worked, guys, I never wanted to stop learning about this shit. But like, once again, you know, that inspired me to keep going, but what inspires you could be totally different. I don't know if you're driven by, like I said, stability, if you're driven by, you know, making the most money. Hold on, nah, hold on. Oh, yeah. 1 second, hold on. All right, don't get hit by the damn car. Yeah, hold on. Give me like 20 minutes. Yeah. I'm about to cause a car accident out here, guys. Sorry about that. But, you got some crazy motherfuckers out. All right, guys, sorry about that. Let's get back to the basics here. But all I'm saying is, like, I can't enforce my ideals on everybody. I can't. It'll be wrong for me to say, you know what? If you don't learn X, Y, Z things in 2 years, you're a failure as an HVAC tech. Nah, guys, like, your path is your path. But like, you know, as a grown man or a grown woman, if for the women out there in the trades, your path is your own unique path. Like, you can't. It's great to compare It's great to compare yourself to use other people's paths for motivation, but stop comparing yourself just to kind of like compare yourself. Like, that shit doesn't make any sense, you know? Once again, I use the analogy all the time. If I see somebody down the street, male or female, like I said, they're exalted past a certain point and they're doing well in life, I gotta assume that they're doing something, they did something good, or they sacrificed, or they put something into it that no one's seen that's bearing fruits for them, guys. So like, once again, you know, that's my personality, but like I said, like, I don't know what it's like on the other side of just being negative and expecting, you know, good things to happen. But guys, real quick, let me look at the comments here. Taters, what's going on, man? Falcon, what's up? Operative leader, what's happening? But guys, real quick, man, like, I was talking at the supply house the other day, man. I'm like, I heard a very indifference in opinion to like the trades and whatnot. And guys, this is out of respect for guys that came in before me. Like I said, you know, the trades will be here before me and the trades will be here after me. So like, guys, I use the valuable HVAC knowledge I have. I use it as a vessel to, you know, to live a good life, like I said, and most importantly, to educate and to help other people out. You know, if you had a different path than me, maybe you didn't have someone training you that taught you how to keep things simple. I know I didn't. So guys, that forced me to learn a lot of things that I didn't have to learn. But ultimately, by me staying in this, I was able to simplify, you know, what I know, and that helped a lot of people out. But guys, like, once again, out of respect to the guys that's been in this now for 20, 30, 40 years, they seen how it was, you know, in primitive times. So like, and one thing that the guy was saying at the supply house, guys, this is like, one guy had like 30 years experience and the other guy had like, shit, I don't know, like at least 10, but they were like going back and forth about where the trades are going. I'm talking specifically HVAC, guys. And the guy that had 30 years experience was like, yeah, like, I mean, right now, you know, and like I said, that to each his own, you know, but I can only tell you what, based on what the guy was saying. He was like, yeah, the new guys coming up now, like I said, they got a short attention span. They don't really like, they stay on their phones all the time, yada, 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 yada. And like, basically, he was basically saying like the trades are going to go to shit. He was like, in like 20 years, you know, the work ethic is already breaking down. He was like, it's not going to be too many people that's out there, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, he wasn't saying that to me. I was there to pick up some supplies, but it was another cat there. He had like 10 plus years and he had the same idea. He had the same ideals I had. Like, look, you know, what the mentality was 30 years ago is different than how it is now. Like 30 years ago, there was no social media. There was less options. Everybody would agree. There was less options. There was less distractions back in the day. But like, guys, that's one thing, and not to get too far off topic, but with social media, I take the good from social media because I can see other people's perspectives that's relative to what I'm doing in life. Me, like I said, someone that's in the ballerina class, I mean, do you, but like I said, that's not going to benefit what I'm doing. But if I see someone that's on the grind every day, somebody that's trying to better themselves, I can take positives from every situation. But like, I use social media for the good. I don't use it to compare myself, to hate on someone. But if I see somebody doing their thing, in the back of my mind, I'm like, yo, like, this shit is possible. He's out there or she's out there, they doing their thing. But like, ultimately, guys, you got to be in the right mindset to receive the right information. But like, if you're not in your right mind, if you're coming into the game hating, and like I said, like, if that's your mentality, then you're going to see all the bad out there, and then you're going to end up wasting all your time. And like I said, that's when you're going to fall into that paralysis by analysis. Like, if you got 10,000 people trying to sell you things every day, if you don't know what your purpose is, what your values are, like if you're not chasing something that you love to do, something that you're going to be proud to do in the next 10 to 15 years, guys, like, you're going to get easily distracted. That's with anything. But like, but back to the supply house, the guy with 10 years, he was like, look, man, it's a different mentality now. There's a lot more, like I said, distractions. But, for the guys that, like I said, that do get exposed to it, they're going to basically hold it down until the next generation comes up. But like, I don't think there's like me personally, like I said, I don't think there's a mass shortage of tradesmen. I mean, I feel like the same shit that was happening now happened before, like you always, and like I said, guys, this is no slight towards anybody, regardless of your experience level. I don't care if you got 1 day experience of HVAC or 100 years, guys. There's always going to be impatient people. And like, that's human nature, guys. Like, the shit we do is stressful. We deal with things we got to do before the call. We deal with stress of getting 2 calls, and then we deal with the stress of what happens when we get to the call. And like, sometimes, like I'm saying, like, for you guys that got to train people, sometimes, like I said, you may lash out, or you may not be in the mood to explain every single thing you do. I've been there and done that, guys. Like, because at the end of the day, you got to get in and get out. In the perfect world, you can spend 6 hours on every call, telling someone XYZ, XYZ. But one thing that they told us in trade school, guys, and this still rings true to the day, you got to be a quick study. Like, unfortunately, you're not going to have the luxury of learning the same thing every day for 6 months. That's not the case. Like, the trade school I went to, and I'm pretty sure they still do this, guys, over at Fortis, I think every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, you learn something new. I forgot what they call it. I think it's called modules or blocks or something. But guys, the point is, like, everything you're learning is relative, but you can't stay on evap coils or blow motors for more than 3 weeks. I want to say 2 or 3 weeks, but you can't stay on one particular thing long enough. It's time to hit the next subject. It's time to hit the next topic. And like, I mean, it's either you're going to sink or swim. But like, I mean, I never talk about perfect scenarios, because the perfect scenario doesn't exist, guys. Like, you're not going to get a job handed to you just off of someone, based off you telling someone you need a job. Like, nah, you got to fill a void in the workplace. If you find a company that needs a maintenance tech, or you find a company that needs an install helper, get in where you fit in, but you work your ass off and you use that job to the best of your ability by you getting the exposure, by you seeing everything, like by you being around this stuff. That's like half the game, guys. Because like, I was telling you guys my intro story. Like, I had to do what I had to do, get into supply houses, like seeing parts and seeing equipment. If I didn't do that, I would have been too disengaged to learn all that theory. Like, and theory helped me out a lot, but I was able to see the stuff too at supply houses. So like, but that worked for me, guys. It would be wrong for me to tell you to do what I did, but you have to find your way, figure the shit out. And like I said, guys, like, I feel like the trades are a great profession, but like, if it's not for you, then it's not for you. I'm not, it is what it is. You just got to find your way. But the values and the principles and the shit I learned, like within my first 3 years, guys, like, forget about HVAC. These are lifelong things. Like, I learned not to have instant gratification up front. Like I said, I'm cool getting the short end of the stick, because long term, I'm always going to win. Like, if I put 5 or 6 years straight into something, like I said, like I said, this is just kind of like my personal life, but I'm like, when the last time I committed to something long term and I was consistent at it? When the last time I did all that and it didn't work out? And I'm like, guys, I was thinking like this back when I was like in my early 20s. I'm like, yo, like, before I start comparing myself, getting depressed, thinking like, damn, I should be this or I should be. I'm like, wait a minute, like, let me look at my resume. What work am I putting in? Like, let me try to hold myself accountable. All right, well, tell you what, I don't know this. I'm just going to commit long term to learning as much as I can about HVAC, and where it takes me is where it takes me. And guys, like, time, like I said, time flies, man. Like, this shit is like, I use the example of the hyperbolic time chamber, guys. Like, time flies when you're having fun, but like, you take the good with the bad, and like, you really don't lose. But like, I don't know really, there's no other simpler way of explaining it, but it's just like, if someone doesn't have the desire to want to learn as much as they can about HVAC, like, I don't know where else that desire is going to come from. And like, and that's why you won't see me advocating for every single person to jump into the trades. No, I mean, it's cool for you to experience it, but if it's not for you, if you can't, if you can't enjoy the trades for what it is, guys, then like, I mean, you have to find your calling, and like, I was telling someone this the other day, like, I think the average entry level now, the trades, I think is like what, 25 to 30, and that's because most kids growing up are forced to go to college by their parents. So like, you got to understand, like, most of the kids now, like, that's 18, 19. I was lucky because, like I said, I knew I didn't want to go to college because, like, I wasn't like a 4-year student type of guy. But like, most of the kids now that's in college, if they drop out, of course you're gonna have a 6-figure debt. But now they might get into a trade school, in their mid-20s once they settle down and once they know how life works, But yeah, guys, I think that, like I said, everybody want the entry level of trades to be 17, 18. If someone, I'm saying male or female, if your mind isn't, I think it's the frontal lobes. If your mentality isn't there yet, like, no job is going to kind of like teach you that. You have to be in the right mentality to receive that information. Like I said, I was very lucky. Like I said, my set of circumstance, if I didn't know what I wanted to do and I was out there trying 1,000 jobs, guys, like, I mean, I was damn near close to doing that if I didn't go to school for HVAC. But like, guys, like I said, once I knew, I put my foot in the sand. I'm like, look, man, I ain't about to go to this 4-year college. Like, I could have did community college. I could have did the 4-year college route, but I'm like, I'm literally like, guys, no bullshit, man. And I this is no slight towards my guy that worked at the Subway, guys. This had to been what, 20, shit, when was this? I got out of high school in 2010. This is 2011, guys. This is when Fortis Institute in Lawrenceville, New Jersey, this is when that school was just getting built, guys. This is how I knew I made the right decision, guys. This is before I knew what HVAC was. This is before I knew what capacitors was. I ain't know none. I damn near didn't know what a screwdriver was. But guys, look, hear me out, right? I never forget this shit. This is some scary straight type shit. Guys, there was a Subway right next to the trade school that we went to. So like on breaks, we'll just go to Subway and, like I said, we'll go back to class. I'll never forget this, guys. I went to Subway. I was like probably maybe a month into that school. I was still learning the ropes, XYZ. But guys, I go to the Subway and like I told the guy, I'm like, yeah, man, I just started this trade school. He was like, yeah, what are you in school for? I'm like, I just started HVAC. They just gave us our tool bag last week. I'm just trying to figure it out. He was like, tell you what, and this guy, he was like an Indian guy. But he was like a little younger. He was like in his 30s. And at that time, I was like 19, damn near 18, 19. But guys, he goes, yeah, he was like, yeah, man, I wish I would have took the trade. I would have went to trade school instead of going to college. And at that time, I'm like, shit, I mean, at least you got a post-high school education. I'm like, what do you mean you wish you never went to college? This motherfucker told me, guys, that he went to college for something, guys. It's so bad that I can't even pronounce the name. I don't know what it is, but he ended up going to college for something for 4 years. After 3 years, it took him 3 years to figure out he didn't want to do it. But now his debt is almost at $200,000, and now he's working at Subway. Guys, like, initially I thought he was playing. I'm like, man, quit playing. You don't owe $200,000 back. He was like, yeah, man, I really do. He was like, right now I can't get a job in what I went to school for, but like, I can't defer the student loans any longer. I'm like, bro, like, how does that make sense? How the fuck you gotta pay $200? He was like, yeah, man. I mean, he was like, you live and you learn. And I'm like, yo, like, what the fuck? I knew I didn't want to go to school, but I mean, I knew I didn't want to go to a 4-year college, but I'm like, there's people out here, man, that's really taking hits. And like, you don't, like I said, college is a great thing if you have an intended purpose, like lawyer, doctors, but like, if you don't know what you want to do and you go to college, that they prey on people like that. Like, I'm talking to college, the institutions, guys. Like, we're not talking 16,000, like the amount I had to pay at the trade school, 6 figures, guys, before you even know how you're going to make money. Like, that shit is like, I don't understand that logic, guys. I don't know. And like, I'm glad, like I said, growing up, I ain't had parents that forced me to like go to college. And like, think about that, guys. Imagine you guys having parents forcing you to go to college without you even knowing what you want to do. Like, what's the intended purpose for going to college? Do you need a degree to get XYZ job? Then yeah, that's a great purpose. But like, if you still figuring it out, like, figure it out before you go to college, because like, figuring it out is not going to cost you $20,000 a year. You get what I'm saying? Like, guys, I'm telling you that from that point on, I'm like, look, man, I don't know HVAC, but I do know my life could be worse, because if I didn't know what the fuck if I wasn't in this trade school, I'm like, man, that's a sobering thought right there, knowing that you got to pay that much money back, and I'm like, you can't defer it. I'm like, now my man got to take 3 or 4 part-time jobs to like pay shit off, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, then what was the point of even going to college? You get what I'm saying, guys? But what do I know, guys? I mean, if it worked for you, work, have at it. But like I said, guys, the beauty of social media, how you guys are seeing this right now, you have the opportunity to learn from people's perspectives. People from 20, 30 years ago they had to go through everything to learn. Either you got it right or you fucked it up. But now, if you guys can decipher through the noise and the politics and the race and all that shit, like, try to pick people's minds and pick people's perspectives and learn from it. Because like I said, and I hate to say it, guys, but you're not going to live long enough to make every single mistake yourself. Eventually, you're going to have to learn from other people's perspectives, whether that be good or bad. Draw from their insight, and like I said, you'll know how to move, and you'll know what to do or what not to do. You feel me? But guys, yeah, man, from that point on, man, from my first month, I'm like, look, man, I already know what my worst case scenario is. My worst case scenario is not going back to working 2 part-time jobs. My worst case scenario is like me picking the wrong profession and having to pay dearly for it, and I'm from that moment on, guys, I'm like, look, I know that school was like 7 to 3, but I'm like, you know what, man, after 3 o'clock, I'm staying an extra hour in the lab. Let me tighten up on my schematic skills. Let me make sure I can trace parts on the schematic. From that point, I'm like, you know what? All right, we ain't got heat pumps in the lab. Let me take my ass to a supply house, introduce myself. Let me make sure they know what I'm about. But I need to see a heat pump. I need to see what a defrost board does. I need to see, guys, like, keep them out. What I'm telling you is not like, I don't think it's abnormal. This is like normal shit. But like I said, that desire always comes from a negative place. Like, I knew what was waiting for me if I didn't take care of business, guys. Like, and that's like, I hate to say it, guys, sometimes it's going to take some scare straight moments for you to know what not to do. But like, some people learn from, like I said, other people, and other people learn from fucking up themselves. But like, I mean, at the end of the day, guys, like I say, you're supposed to improve. You got to put the accountability on yourself to learn from where you came from. As far as, if things didn't work out, or if it did work out, always seek to improve. I'm not talking home runs, but like, shit, if the goal is to get 1% better every day, you times that by 6 months, times that by a year, like I said, you good. But guys, like I said, my take on it, you'll never hear me, complain about, like I said, new guys getting out of trade school. Like I said, anybody, guys, I don't give a damn what you do. If you do HVAC, if you do automotive, if you got the right mentality, and like I said, like right mentality meaning if you had the right expectations, if you don't have the instant gratification thing, and you commit to learning as much as you can about a said, profession long enough, then like I say, you don't lose. Like, I don't know anybody that commits to something long term and then ends up losing. Like, no. Like, no one's putting a gun to our head and making us choose our profession, or at least I hope not. But like, if you operate with the right mentality, like I said, everybody can win. But will everybody win? No. That can't be my responsibility, because I already took care of business, guys. Like, and that's why that brings us to where we're at now, guys. Like, me being 33, like I said, my goal is peace and happiness, guys. Like, how the world operates now is how the world operates. Like I said, I got my own section of, I know what I'm about, and like I said, I do way more good than bad. Like I said, guys, like this, and this is a real shit. Like, when I grew up, like I said, like, there was no examples of what peace and happiness looked like, because like I said, I grew up the first 10 years without social media. But once the .com era boomed, that's when, the world started to move faster. And that's when, like I said, guys, like, it became a lot. Now one option turned into 10,000 options overnight. And like that paralysis by analysis is a real thing. But how you can break through that is, like I said, you have to look yourself in the mirror, like I said, and know what you're about, and know, you can't say yes to everything that pops up. You got to keep your time and keep your space and keep your energy available for things that you got to work on. Because like, if you keep committing to things that's not beneficial to what you're doing, then like, eventually you're gonna look up one day and say, yo, like, what the fuck am I, like, what am I doing right now? You feel me? Like, so, but guys, like I said, I know I went off topic a little bit, but like, the trades ain't dying. I think the trades are going to be in good hands. Like I said, I feel like I ain't the only one talking like this. There's other cats out here, like I said, that's in the trade, 5-10 years. I mean, the trade is what you make it. Like I said, HVAC isn't going anywhere. I remember when Elon Musk tried to make Tesla furnaces or some shit like that. Everybody got their panties in a bunch and said, oh, well, yeah, Elon Musk is going to try to buy Carrier and try to make robots fix HVAC units. Guys, that shit is a lie. I'll tell you like this right now, guys. I think fossil fuel is getting ready to dry up. They're trying to say we're on our last reserves of oil and natural gas. My take on it is this, guys. I'm like, this is like things I see every day. New York is basically trying to subsidize, like, they're trying to get rid of natural gas and fossil fuels. They're trying to use heat pumps. Guys, you hear me say this a bunch of times. Heat pumps are great, but if someone can't afford the high electric, I'm talking from heat pumps with electric backup. If someone can't afford the high upfront cost of running electric year round, guys, like there's a reason why fossil fuels work for, X amount of years. Like you can't just get rid of it like that. So like, I remember there was a mandate in New York where they tried to get rid of gas stoves. I don't know if they're still pushing it, guys, but they tried to get rid of a bunch of gas appliances. And guys, when it gets real cold, we're not in Florida, we're not in Virginia. When it gets cold here, it gets cold. Like look at the weather for tonight in Pennsylvania. It's gonna get to fucking 8 degrees. It's gonna get to 8 degrees. Like electric heat is okay, but it gets expensive. Fossil fuel, that's the good old fashioned heat right there. I mean, it is what it is. I get the idea behind why they want to get rid of fossil fuel, because like I said, it's a limited supply. But guys, like I said, it's a reason why it worked for so long. They wasn't trying to change this in the 40s or 30s. They said burn it until you can't you can't get rid of it. But I mean, with that being said, I understand, like I said, ozone depletion, blasey, like trying to make the earth green or whatever. But at the end of the day, like I said, think about California, guys. For all these initiatives that they're trying to do, California is trying to turn itself into its own country. But like, most of that shit don't work. You see what they try to do with Tesla. They try to make it mandatory. They tried to make it mandatory for everybody to, they tried to ban gas cars in California, some crazy shit. And I'm like, in theory it works, but a lot of that stuff doesn't work in practicality. Like, I can easily say, you know what, man, every customer should be able to afford a brand new furnace within the first 2 years, or some outlandish shit like that. It may work for some people, but that's not reality for everybody. And it's a reason why what you see now is existing. Like, I don't think nothing exists without a purpose. You get what I'm saying? Especially not in mass. Like, there's a reason why fossil fuels work. But like, I mean, long term, like I said, they're saying allegedly we're on our last reserves of natural gas and oil. But I really don't see how, unless they, like I said, unless they make, electric more affordable, which I don't see them doing, especially in inner cities. I don't see how that's going to work, guys. I see a lot more problems than I see solutions. I can see it now. Imagine a brand new condo with heat pumps and electric backup. You're going to get that call in December. Hey, I'm wondering how come my bills are $850 a month? This is a brand new heat pump. Shouldn't my bills be lower? And then, guys, you as a service tech, you're going to have to hit them with the law. Like, yeah, heat pumps are great, but guess what? We're not living in the Midwest. We're not living in the South. We're living in the Northeast. We're down there in the New York region. You know what that means? When it gets cold in the winter, below that threshold, below 32 degrees, that heat pump is not going to stay on long. It has to turn itself off on defrost. And what happens when it turns off on defrost? You guys already know. That's when that electric backup turns on. So, and you're not going to win that battle. So, but guys, like I said, I wanted to get on here and chat with y'all. I didn't get on last week, so I had to make up by talking my shit with y'all this week, man. But guys, like I said, just to sum all this up, man, like I said, the trades are in good hands. I want to know what you guys think about it. I hope you guys aren't caught up in the hoopla of, oh yeah, everybody's retiring. Yeah, I mean, the 60 and 70 year olds are retiring, but like, there's always going to be someone to take their place. It may be a different personality. It is what it is, guys. But as long as, like, I don't care if someone comes in pink, green, yellow, or orange. As long as that person can do the job right and he's taking care of customers, I don't give a shit. Like, rock out, bro. Like I said, this was here, but when I was born, and HVAC is going to be here when I die. Like, if you work on your foundation and you work on your skills, and like I say, you treat customers right, then shit, everything on the back end, your last 20, hopefully if you guys have a long career, your last 20 to 30 years is going to be way easier than the first couple of years, because you already seen everything. You feel me? So like, guys, like I said, just try whatever you do, man. Like I said, once you get past that proverbial hill of learning the basics, you keep applying yourself. Once you get past that level of understanding this, like I said, simplicity should be a goal. You want to keep it simple. Like, there is no need to like overcomplicate, like I said, how things work, or like I said, how to communicate things. It is what it is, guys. But with that being said, I gotta get up out of here. Let me look at the comments here. While I'm wearing a seatbelt, because I'm getting ready to leave, and it makes a noise if I don't have my seatbelt on. From Congress, appreciate it. Matthew, my son makes $250 a year. Can't buy a house. Damn. Yeah, I'm telling you, California is its own country. I don't care what anybody say. Like, I think California should separate itself from the rest of the world, because nothing there makes sense. I got, like, no bullshit. Look, like, guys, this is like me and my gym bros. We have random conversations about this shit all the time, guys. Like, I feel like California, if you look at what we seen growing up, we seen Watts, we seen Compton, guys, there's literally Skid Row. I think Google's in San Francisco. There's literally San Francisco doesn't make any sense to have that much money and expensive, like I said, billion-dollar companies in San Francisco, they don't even care about the homeless people out there. And it's like, it's you can't even like fathom, like, how would that even, do they even care? Like, do they think like the drug addicts out there is just gonna, like, that makes the city looks bad out there. Like, I just don't get it. And like the governor out there, like, I got a feeling, man, and that's some other shit. I think for like the governors out there, as long as they keeping the rich people out of jail, and like I said, they ain't, you know, they're getting paid off, they don't give a shit out there. That's why, like I said, politics, guys, it is what it is. I'm not, if you, however you feel about it, if you agree with Trump, you disagree with Trump, that's your prerogative. But like I said, guys, the more you get into politics, the more corrupt and bullshit you're gonna find. So like, that's why my official take on politics is, it is what it is, guys. Because, you know, the more you know about it, the more you wish you never would have known about politics. Because like California, I've been out there, like I said, once or two times, and like, you know, it's just not my speed. Like, I'm talking before Miami blew up with the prices. Like, I thought California, you know, New York, it is what it is, but I thought California was like always overpriced. But it's just like, but the people out there, they make their own laws. Like, that's one thing you got to respect. Like, it is what it is. You know, that's why I advocate for California to, you know, just separate from the U.S. What they do is on them. But like I said, I feel like what they do should not have a negative aspect on us. But you already know how it works, guys. Like, with the wildfires and shit like that, you know, like, you know, it is what it is, guys. Like, the more you look into it, you know, you gotta make sure you keep your sanity, because like, you know, I feel like whoever's high up, man, as long as they can pay off the right politician, you know, nothing's ever gonna happen to them. And like, look, respect the finesse, guys. That's one of my sayings. Like, if you got the money, and like I said, you know, I don't care if what you're doing is legal or illegal. If you pay off the right politician, as soon as they get reelected, they're gonna make sure you're good. They, like, think about it. But guys, what do I know? I don't want to turn this into a rabbit hole of politics. But guys, I'm about to get up out of here. Let me look at this. 250 here is disgusting. Yeah, I mean, shit. But California, I don't know. I mean, that's with the wages out there. I mean, I'm saying like specifically with trades. I mean, I seen this before. This happened like 5 or 6 years ago. Someone mentioned, I'm talking like from an HVAC company in California. They were like, if you make $1 million a year I'm talking as a company, if an HVAC business makes $1 million a year in California, in Pennsylvania, that may be like $500,000 or like 600,000. And like, I mean, but keep in mind, everything is it's expensive, but everything is overpriced out there too. So like, I mean, hopefully it's not a high cost of living with a low earning. Like, the earnings have to be up too, but like, if you take that earning and you take that potential to another area, it's gonna be like drastically less. You know, that's like New York. You know, a sanitation worker could make $80,000 a year, but if you take his skills to, you know, Jersey, you take his skills to Pennsylvania, it could be less. You know, and that's the give or take. You know, like, unfortunately, like I said, New York has higher wages, but the cost of living makes it not even worth the fucking wage. You get what I'm saying? So, but guys, I got to get up out of here. I appreciate y'all for checking in. But like I said, just to encapsulate all this, make sure if you guys are in the trade, you know, like I said, you keep rocking out. You know, make sure you guys are having fun with this, because, you know, this weekend, like I said, I know if we don't get called out this weekend, I know next week is going to be a mofo. But guys, this is why the customers pay us. Like I said, not only based on what we know, but we got to be available and make sure we can help them out, especially when things break down. So, but guys, I got to rock out. I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.